Hi, it's Donna Joy Asher from Living Through Heart, and I'm really excited. I've just started recording a 5-part podcast series. So it's going to be 5 different podcasts, and I'm talking about attachment styles. Why is this exciting? So I only discovered attachment styles personally 6 months ago. I kind of touched on them when I was studying to be a hypnotherapist and psychotherapist, but I didn't realize at that time, I kind of arrogantly assumed that I didn't have an issue with attachment styles until recently, probably about 6 months ago. I had an anxious attachment style trigger up. And so I've spent the last 6 months kind of learning about attachment styles, going into my own attachment style, healing my wounding, sort of creating my attachment style. It's been a pretty intense 6 months. I'm not 100% through with what I'm doing, but I'm a hell of a lot better than what I was, and I'm at a point where I can observe my attachment style. Now, I was lucky enough to have two main mentors helping me through this. So I've got Georgia Rose and Chantel Raven. They're both women who are in Perth who are embodiment practitioners, but also Tantra, women who are into Tantra. And it was through them that I learned about attachment styles and have been supported in the healing of it through the information that they provide and the healing modalities that they have offered within that. So by now you're like, why does she keep saying the words attachment style, and what is an attachment style? So I just wanted to quickly talk to you about it here and then direct you to my podcast for more information on it. So attachment styles are basically, they were something that was, the theory of it was put together by a guy called John Bowlby back in the 1950s. And he was kind of observing caregivers and the children, the relationships between the caregivers and the children, and then how the formation of the child. And basically it's all about safety, right? You know, everything that we're learning when we're an infant and we're a toddler and we're a baby and when we're in our unconscious mind is how to stay safe. So attachment styles is all to do with safety. How safe are we? So it's basically this cycle of attachment between the caregiver and the child that develops, where the child has a need. The child has an arousal to that need, so they cry, they're hungry, they let their need, that they have a need, be known, and because they can't communicate what that need is, then the caregiver has to come and try and meet that need. And then once that need is met, the child develops trust in the caregiver and in life in general. They learn to feel that they are safe. And the cycle continues. Now, luckily for us, for a secure attachment, which is a healthy attachment, to being able to attach to other people in a secure and happy and healthy way, and not a needy way, or not to avoid attachment, which are two of the 4 attachment styles, right? We become very anxious and fear of rejection, or we just become totally avoidant. And we just don't want to attach to people at all. So emotionally unavailable people. Okay, there's a reason for this. So, we only have to be able to be in secure attachment. We only have to have had our needs met about 38% of the time. I'm not sure how they come up with that percent and why it's not 39% and why it's not 37%. But anyway, they say 38% of the time. So if you are a parent, don't freak out. The other thing that counts too is if the child is crying and maybe you're not meeting their actual need, but you're trying. And this is like maybe when you have a newborn child or your first child and you're trying to work out what their cry means. What do they need? Are they hungry? Are they wet? Are they, cold? And you're there though trying to meet the child's need. And that's still developing trust within them, because the child can feel that their need is trying to be met, even if there is the actual needs not being met at that point in time. So attachment styles, we can have, there's 4 main attachment styles, and I'm going to go into each one in a podcast on each one, and I'll probably create a video about each one as well. So there's the secure attachment, there's the anxious attachment, where we kind of anxiously attach, there's a need, we have a fear of rejection. Avoidant attachers are the people who are more emotionally unavailable, have the walls in place. And then there's the disorganized, which are anxious and avoidant together. So they're people who maybe the caretaker was abusive sexually or physically or emotionally. So they had to bond to a person that they were also fearful of, and that creates a lot of disorganized chaos in their mind, because not only is it not safe to bond, but then they had to bond and they become anxious and needy and also avoidant at the same time. And it creates quite an issue within them. And people who are disorganized attachers, they need a lot of therapy and a lot of help to be able to let go of this, to move through it. Now, we can have more than one attachment style. We can attach with certain people in certain ways. We can have secure attachments where we have friends that we're very securely attached to, but then maybe we might find in romantic relationships. And normally what happens is that you can be fine by yourself, but as soon as you get into an intimate relationship, it'll trigger up your attachment style and all the fear, either the fear of rejection or the fear of lack of freedom, which are the two main things for anxious and avoidance, come up. So you can be securely attached to, like, just say you might have a secure attachment with your mother, but an anxious one with your father. So you might find that attaching securely to women is easy, but securing attachedly to men is difficult, and it becomes more of an anxious attachment. You might find, interestingly enough, if two really anxious people come together, then one will probably become avoidant, or they just won't be attracted to each other because the polarity is not there. And interestingly enough, there is a real polarity between an anxious attacher and an avoidant attacher, because when they come together, right, there's like this space for the anxious attacher's energy to flow into with the avoidant. And then they kind of like, then it's like they fulfill each other's belief systems, where when the avoidant pulls back, the anxious one has that rejection, and it's like this, oh, I knew it. And then when the anxious one is overly needing and overly grasping, the avoidant one feels their freedom getting taken away from, and it's that same thing, oh, I knew it, right? So anxious and avoidance are really attracted to each other, and it can be that really like combustible, like wow energy, and like, you know, when you meet somebody and it's like you've known each other forever and it's instantly, you know, love at first sight, and then like a month later everything starts to fall apart, right? That's that anxious and avoidant attachment coming together. Now, the beautiful thing is that we can heal our attachment styles, and within a relationship, if two people are observant of them and are working together, it's actually a really beautiful way to heal each other, because an avoidant forces an anxious to have to be by themselves and to have to learn to be safe by themselves. And an anxious forces an avoidant to learn to have to come in and to receive love, right? And to be there and to actually give themselves the freedom that they need, rather than expect other people to give it to them. So if this is interesting to you, then maybe go and check out my podcast, Living Through Heart. We'll put the link to that through this video, but you can also get to it through Facebook profile, YouTube profile, wherever you're watching this video. There should be a link to my podcast as well. And you can start to follow this series on attachment styles and start to observe yourself within relationship, and observe, you know, the thing about an attachment style is when it's hidden, when it's unconscious, when we're unaware of it, we think that that's just the way things are. And it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy that's happening, but it's actually us creating it, right? Things are getting triggered up in us. We're observing things and perceiving things in certain ways because of this attachment style that's there. So go and watch my podcast and learn more about, go and listen to my podcast, learn more about attachment styles and more about yourselves. And obviously feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about this and if you need help healing an attachment style.